When I teach the court cards then, we have like the Rider-Waite-Smith cards here, and there are symbols in here, and we have things like salamanders, and we have different kind of aspects in here that were put in there by the Golden Dawn. Everybody in the Golden Dawn created their own deck. The handout that I've given you, Mina is telling me I really need to finish my book. So this is actually part of the book that I'm writing. So I'm just going to follow this because this is pretty much what I go by. And if anybody's seen me in the morning, 7:15, I do a morning meditation that I share every day, Monday through Friday. And you can see examples of when court cards pop up. But the court cards are us. They are people. They are the archetypes of the student. They're the archetype of the executive. There is a nurse in there. There's a psychiatrist in there. So what we need to do is we need to be able to pull these out and identify with today so that we're not looking for that deep metaphysical reading. They're going to reflect emotions, all of our feelings, our anxieties as we go along. And they talk to each other. They have conversations. So that's kind of what we want to look at. So one thing I want to talk about is that I said in the 1500s, people would know what these cards meant. Okay? So if you saw a page, okay, and we have pentacles, we have swords, we have wands, and we have cups. So back in the 1500s, if somebody saw cups like this, where would you see a cup that's as beautiful? Where are you at, young lady? Here we go. I don't know if you can see that very well, but she's got this golden chalice kind of thing. Where would you see cups like this?
Church.
Church. Okay. So then what does that probably mean if you see that cup in a non-religious sense? Spirituality, emotions, feelings. People would know this. So if you saw wands, you would know that, well, you do use those for fire, use those for energy. So each one of these has an element to them. And we're going to focus on the elements. Now, let's take a look at, I'm going to do the elements first on my body so that we understand. My feet. What would that be? What? Earth. Because this is what keeps us grounded. I have 2 feet on the ground. So then we're going to move up to the pelvic region. You know, fire and energy and things like that. So what element? Fire. But then when we get to the heart, what element would that be? Water. Which leaves air, which is thoughts. So if we now have the elements, and we understand, so earth is just, it's about home and health and finance, and it's all these things that keep us grounded. So how would somebody in the 1500s, they probably didn't use the elements back then, but they understood coins. So coins are the element of earth. And why would that be? Because they are about home. You need to have home, finance, health. This is the stuff that helps keep us grounded. And it's also the merchant class. They would identify this with the merchant class, which back then would be the landowners. So we have the coins, which again identify with the landowners, and it identifies with the finances. Hello, do we need an... Oh, hi! Let's get you an extra chair. You got that? I think we've run out of handouts, but I will make sure everybody gets one. And I'm just covering everything that's in the handout the way it is. And I was just covering the elements, but you know about the elements. Why don't you give us your name and tell us your favorite deck?
Hannah, and my favorite deck is the Tarot de Marseille, the Order of
So, and you got a copy of the Oswald, didn't you?
We don't have it yet.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, I was just talking about how the element of earth, which is the coins, and how that's also with our finances and things like that. In the 1500s, it would also be identified with the merchants. So, then we need to go to wands. Okay? So, we have the wands. Who would be with the wands? Who with the fire, the creativity, the crafting? That would be the everyday folk. That would be the people who, the keepers of the hearth is how I like to look at it. But it's about all the fire, energy, action, movement, getting things done, creativity, because it wasn't the rich people that did the paintings and the carvings, and it wasn't the merchants because they're not going to get their hands dirty. So that's about the everyday folk, and it's about the fire that drives us. So then we have the heart. We have our spiritual class. So anybody who saw these cups would know that this deals with their emotions, the feelings. So that also ties into romance. That also ties into love, compassion, things like that. Then we have, look at the stern faces. I don't know if you can see this, but they have some very stern faces, don't they? What class of people would that be? That would be the nobility. That would be the political, the royalty. People that have, they do the strategizing. They're the ones that are going to send the knights into battle, right? They're the ones that, so that's the element of air. So we just identify the court cards by that. And if we identify, as we did, we talked about swords. So what element are the swords? Okay. What elements are the cups? Yeah. Yep. So that means that these guys sitting here, like here we have this King of Swords. I have a chart in the back. This would almost be like air of air, wouldn't it? That would be thought of thought, which means we have the Queen down here. And so if the King is air, what would the Queen be? Since she's a nurturing type, she's the mothering type, what? She's water. Then we have fire and energy. We have, if I'm a king and I want to send somebody into battle, who am I going to send first? I'm going to send my charging knights in, because my charging knights are fire and energy and action. And Pamela Coleman Smith even put salamanders on here, because if you didn't know it, salamanders actually come from fire. Or at least they used to think so. So we have the element of fire. So then we have the page. And the page being grounded, the page is still learning. It's almost like if we look at this, he's holding his coin and it almost looks like a seed, doesn't it? So if we consider, we talked about the different classes, which is the royal class, the strategist. We talked about the religious class. We talked about the everyday folk. That's a nice way of saying peasant. But some people, I just personally would rather say just because everyday folk. And then we have the merchant class. So these are all different personalities, aren't they? So these are all different personalities, and ultimately they would end up having different conversations, wouldn't they? So if we think of it like this then, the King of Swords. If you went and talked to the King of Swords with an everyday issue, what kind of a response do you think he's going to give you? You know, I want to buy a new house. What should I do? So swords are here. So he is the Sword of Swords. He's the heir of air. He's the thought of thought. What kind of advice would this person give in an everyday world?
Very practical, very analytical.
Yeah, very logical.
Direct.
Yeah, absolutely direct. So it's that clear vision, that clear sightedness. Although he is a king, and so his sword is kind of an angle here, because you don't want to anger somebody who's in power, and also their opinion is more important than anybody else's. So when they say clear vision, it's a king. It's their vision that they see, maybe not yours. So that could be, what type of personality then? What type of people do we deal with in everyday world that's like that?
Executives, bosses.
Yeah, our bosses, you know, politicians, because they're smarter than anybody. Just ask them. So then if we come up with an everyday problem, they're going to give us their solution. But sometimes we need that clear-sightedness, don't we? Sometimes we need somebody to be direct. But here we have the Queen of Swords. And so when we're looking at the tarot, the card itself tells us what the element is. And queens are
Water.
okay? But she's holding a sword, so she is water of air. She's emotion over thought. So what kind of person, so when you see her, if you were going to ask her for advice, what do you think that means then, if she's got emotion over thought?
She might say, I was just going to have your best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Your feelings in mind in her response.
Yeah.
Soft power, which is what I think of.
Yeah.
More heart than mind
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to decision making.
Yeah. So what kind of person do we know who's like that?
Mothers.
Nurses.
Nurses. Okay. So yeah, a teacher, because they you know, they're in it. They most of them will be in there because they want to teach, kind of thing. Maybe a psychiatrist. And I actually call this the tough love card, because this queen is logical. She sees things for the way they are, and she still loves though. And so some situations you can see where she might love you enough to let you ruin your own life. I can't control you. If you're going to make that decision, I'm here for you. I can give you advice. And that's that tough love. So when I'm doing a reading for people, I see this as the tough love card sometimes, where the king is just going to be direct, and that's where, you know, I would clash with my father. When I see empathy with that logic, I respond a totally different way, don't I? Now, what do we have here? We have a knight. So we consider that these are probably older in age, right? But a knight one day hopes to be the king. But a personality like that has something to prove first, right? So if you think of somebody who's like in their 20s or 30s, maybe going into their 40s, but somebody, if we have a personality like that, and knights are what element? They're fire and energy, aren't they? And he's the Knight of Swords, so that makes him, what, 2 elements? What's the first one? What's the second one?
Fire.
Exactly. So, who do we know like that? And what kind of a personality do you think that is?
He's going to be a strategist.
He wants to be, yep.
Military people.
Yep. So, he may not have experience though. So, he's jumping into something, isn't he?
Reckless.
Yeah. How many people here have older kids? So, what happens when a older child gets something in their head, regardless of what you think? Aren't they just going to run with it? So that may be a good thing. So this is somebody, it's like, if you want to get something done, it's like maybe you want to get a knight, but sometimes they might be impetuous. Sometimes maybe they know more than you do. Just ask them. So what kind of a personality is this then? Who is this?
Teenagers.
Okay, yeah. Or maybe this is like some middle management person who's like got the boss on him, and so his way is the right way. So you could either be productive or you can listen to this person. Right?
Self-styled go-getter.
The self-styled go-getter. I really like that. And so he's probably going to give you different advice. So what kind of advice is this person going to give you?
Just do it.
Yeah. They're just going to tell you what they think and then expect you to follow along. They're so busy moving with that fire and energy.
So, the air aspect of it, giving him, like, it's almost like we're describing somebody that, he's just all action, no thought involved whatsoever. And I almost think that this might be somebody like the young idealist who is now kind of almost a little bit of a radical. He gets an idea in his head and he wants to change the world with it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not somebody who's not thinking, but it is somebody who is turning that thinking
Into
very
action.
directly into action.
Into very impulsive action.
As opposed to somebody who doesn't think at all, which I think would be our fire. Would
Yeah.
be doubling down on the movement.
But as we're going through these cards, keep in mind that when we read the tarot, we're telling a story. So we have a card to the left and a card to the right. So what's the positive aspect of this person then?
Fearless. Fearlessness. Like always
Yeah.
Yeah.
just going
Yeah.
forward.
Mina's got a son who went to college. And I tell you what, he got it in his head. He ran with it and he's literally a rocket scientist. But that would be his personality. He wasn't going to let feelings get in his way. He wasn't going to let emotions get in his way. Although he's still had the growing brain, so he still had to deal with that. So the cards to the left and right will tell the story about what this person is doing. If he's running into a burning building and fire is like, don't do that. I've got this. I'm just going to grab something. I'll come back out. It's like, no, Then he's being impetuous.
It makes me think of my boss, who is a volunteer fire marshal. He is decisive. He doesn't, sit and weigh possibilities all day. What's the situation? Okay, making a decision.
Seconds.
We're moving with it. He doesn't sit and I don't know.
Right. Yeah, so he's not like the king who's going to sit there and strategize and say, the king is the one that's going to say, this is probably the best thing to do in a situation. This is what, they'll talk to this person like you're saying, and then he's going to be sitting there monitoring, and this person is the one who's ready to go. Because he's got the ideas, he's got the action. Literally, if it's a fire marshal, he's got the fire.
Yeah.
So here we see the page. So what element is the page? So this is earth over air. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So what kind of a personality is earth and being grounded?
Might move slower.
Yep.
Practical.
Practical. Yeah. So when we see somebody like the Page of Swords, a page one day hopes to be a knight. And then once he becomes a knight, a page wants to become, maybe he's going to learn his emotion. You know, he can become a queen. But ultimately the king. So what type of personality wants to learn?
Young person.
Receptive.
So, but again, yes, so, and this is usually identified with a younger person. And that's one thing, you go into the books and they say if you get the queen, you know, you're going to see the Queen of Swords, you're going to meet a dark-haired woman who's intellectual, and she's going to tell you, well, I don't do fortune telling. So when I see the Page of Swords, a lot of times what that can be also is what happens when you have a new idea? What's the first thing you want to do?
Explore.
Yeah. If it's a new career path that you want to take, you just don't jump into brain surgery, do you? You research it. So then when we want to do something, if we're learning something, then are we the page? We're not experienced. We're grounding ourselves into something new. And the ground is all about seeds and growing, isn't it? Slowly, but it's about the ground. So what does that mean about this personality here then, whether it's a young person or an old person? If you saw this person, what would you think then?
Motivated to learn new things.
Yeah. So, and I like how Pamela Coleman Smith puts a lot of clouds in here and the way she does this, because there is conflict between, for example, the Queen, fire and water, because which of us haven't had that emotion over intellect conflict? We know what we should do, but then we know what we want to do. And so it is a conflict sometimes. So she does a good job. So when we're telling our stories, we can look at the pictures and we apply these things to our stories. Based on what's left and right, it may be we have to overcome our emotions and how we feel, or we may need to do what we need to do. But it's all about telling the stories. So, we have the swords. Does anybody have any questions about what we've just discussed then, or what these personalities are? So then we're going to go ahead and let's take a look at our coins. So we've discussed the page. And so the page of coins, what is his elements? Okay. So when you see that in a reading, what is that going to kind of evoke?
Grounding, so that means like stability.
Down to earth.
Yeah. So she even has him really studying this almost like it's a seed. He's going to be, and again, this is about, coins are about what? Because it's merchant, we deal with finance, home, health, all those things that keep us grounded. So it's any of a new concept that deals with that. So maybe if this pops up, when would this reflect as us then? What's an example of us being the page of coins?
Knowing your first house or something?
Yeah, exactly, because that's your home, that's your finances. And you have to research an area first, and you have to even know what you want to do before you can do it. Now, here's an interesting, so we have this guy here, and we know that it could be a younger person studying, or it could be us when we have something. And again, if we're dealing with health, especially in this country, because you don't get an operation without looking at your finances first, or else you're going to lose your house. Blows my mind. So that's dealing with our finances and our health and things like that. So here we have the Knight of Pentacles. So we have, what's the first element?
Fire.
Over. Okay, so that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because what is fire?
Passion, creativity.
Movement, action. And then we have Pentacles, which is, yeah. So that's kind of a tough one, isn't it? So this is the one horse here that's not all fiery steed, and he's the one horse that has all 4 feet on the ground. So what could this mean then as far as a personality?
Slow but steady progress. I would think maybe once a direction is chosen, that's it. The movement will be hard to steer, I might say. Either that or a landslide is its own problem, but I would think slow and steady.
Yeah, like, sort of like, almost like it's a marathon, not
Yeah.
a sprint.
Yeah.
I see it as like inner turmoil, like in a way of like, I'm kind of torn between going and staying.
Yeah. Yeah, because if this is like a younger person, then they want to do the movement. But again, we're dealing with home, finances, maybe health, things like that. And so with Earth, things move at its own pace. A seed, no matter how much you stare at a seed, it's not going to grow any faster. So Pamela Coleman Smith has him holding this like a seed, and we see that there's fields out here that maybe he's just observing, maybe he needs to stay for a while and not be that action. But again, we're basing it on the cards to the left and right, because maybe naturally he's supposed to be moving, but maybe he's taking notes, he's doing checklists, maybe he's so distracted by everything else there is no movement. So sometimes this could be a blockage because he's grounded himself there and he's so busy with focusing on what's in front of him that he's not seeing everything else around him. But these are stories that we tell, and when you think of Earth, of Fire, when you're telling your story, we're going to look at the different personalities based on the other cards around it. So there is no fixed meaning. Now, who do we have here? It's the Queen of Pentacles. So this is water over.
Ground.
Okay. So we have the Queen is the element of water, which means
Emotion, spirituality.
feelings, all those things like that. And then, so if she is the Queen, if she is water over earth, what do you think this means? What kind of personality is this?
It's like a grounded, like her emotions are grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, water, it's like you need water to have things in the earth grow. So I kind of think, I almost see that as very fertile in a way.
Emotions put to practical acts.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and you can make things grow. She really,
Yeah.
she's the person that, yeah, that will make a project really kind of blossom.
Yeah,
In a way.
the emotional aspect fertilizes and feeds the movement so that she evades the bound upness.
Unless there's too much water in it.
Unless there's too much water, it's drowned, yeah.
It could also be like being financially stable by something that you emotionally feel aligned with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So somebody once described this to me, and this was a while ago, obviously, but they also, and all that is absolutely 100% true, because she's almost like an earth mother. She might even be pregnant, but it's almost like an earth mother. But I kind of connected when somebody was talking about it, or maybe I read it in a book, but has anybody here ever heard of Harry Potter? Okay, a few of us have. So, who would this fit?
Mrs. Weasley.
Yeah.
Ron Weasley's mom. She's going to invite you in. She's going to make sure you sit down. She's going to feed you that bowl of stew. She's going to take care of you. But what's going to happen if you mess with one of her kids?
She'll kill you.
She's going to mess you up. And so when somebody described the Queen of Pentacles as Miss Weasley, I'm like, I get that. So that's the personality. And we know people like that. We know people who are very down to earth and very motherly, right? So what kind of advice do you think she's going to give? So if you go to her with is this even a person you'd want to get advice from?
Oh gosh,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
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 Why?
She's going to give you something very practical. Something that, like, yeah, solid advice that you can take to the bank.
Yeah. It's going to be as heartfelt as her stew. You know?
Yeah.
So then we have the King of Pentacles, which is what element over what?
Air.
Air over earth.
Okay. So what does that mean? Especially since we're dealing with a merchant class here.
It's a good money maker.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see she's got a whole verdant field here. There's grapes growing. I like how she has that. So this type of person right here is what type of personality in the real world would you say? Who would be this?
They're an accountant.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like the CEO of, potentially the CEO of a company, because they're thinking, they've got the planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're applying a thoughtful approach to material problems. It could also be like a career civil servant. So
Yeah.
someone who is, not politically minded, but is there to make things work.
Yep.
The technology base, since it's air, this element?
Sure. But this is going to be like, yeah, and as a grounded person.
Yeah.
So are they going to buy the greatest, newest, flashiest thing? Or are they going to buy something that works?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mina's son is working at the White House, and he makes sure he gets the newest and well, actually, I get the newest and flashiest things. I'm a computer guy. But that's at my house. When I go to work, I can kind of relate to what we were just talking about here. It's like, I'll buy something used. I'll be practical about it, especially practical with money. So, any questions or any thoughts about what the advice would be for each one of these? So then, we have cups. And cups are the element of what?
Water.
And what does water mean?
Emotion and spirituality.
Absolutely. So, here we have the Page of Cups. And Pamela Coleman Smith, I don't know if you can see this. What is in that cup?
Fish.
That's a
She has a fish in this cup. So us Marseille people know that originally it was just a wood block that was a piece of cloth that was coming up. But Pamela Coleman Smith, it's pretty whimsical, isn't it? And I like Pamela Coleman Smith. This is also an example that Pamela Coleman Smith in 1904, she also designed stages. She was she was an artist. She would craft the stages. And how do we know that she designed the stages?
He's standing on a stage, I think.
When you go through the Marseille deck, you're going to see a lot of characters standing on a stage, which means it's an archetype. It's an archetype. It's a character that is performing in a particular way. So if we have this Page of Cups, it is element over what?
Earth, water.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of personality would this be?
I mean, just because the fish is there and it's goofy, I think of somebody who's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah, and if it's us or anybody with a younger, when we allow ourselves to still see the magic in the world, it's a little bit whimsical. Sometimes it's maybe, since we're dealing with emotions, maybe sometimes immature, like somebody younger. We're seeing things maybe not the way they really are, because that's not really a fish in there. But we're staring at our emotions so hard, And it can be also that younger person, because they see the world more magical. Sometimes we forget about that. So what about if we are talking about a relationship? Somebody comes to you and you do a reading about a relationship, and what do you think this might, what story would this tell? What do you think this would be? Not knowing what's left or right yet, this card just pops up first.
Being like at the honeymoon phase? Or...
Sure. What else?
A caution against seeing what you want to see.
Sure.
Early days, there's some potential.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. And then to the left and right. And then other times it might be, we're so busy staring at that fish. Yeah, like we said, we don't really see what's going on.
Rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, rose-colored glasses. Not that it's a bad thing, but... So it's not just a child. These are us, and these are our emotions. So here we have the Knight of Cups. Look at this guy. What are his elements?
Fire and
Fire
water.
and food.
Yeah. So what do you think that means?
Passion and emotions.
I get the sense
Pressure.
that he's somebody who's really, he likes himself.
He really does, kind of, doesn't he?
He's spontaneous.
Yeah. And so weren't we a little bit romantic at that age? And it's like, here we are, and we've got a brand new shiny suit, And so, but I mean, would you really want to trust this guy in a relationship?
No.
Well, why not? He's all passion and energy.
I think there would be a lot of volatility
Yeah.
in
Oh,
that relationship.
You-
Who would be passionate?
I think,
Would he be fun at first?
oh, that's yeah.
Would you be attracted to him at first?
But then that water would put that fire out.
or give you steam burns. I would see a lot of potential for pressure there. I mean, what popped into my mind is that pretty much every form of energy production we have comes down to creating steam.
Mm-hmm.
Like even nuclear power, steam.
Yeah.
It's just fancy steam.
But what's
So-
interesting is there's no clouds.
Yeah.
In any of the cards. Any of the
Actually,
other
yeah.
ones, just
No,
the swords.
Yeah, because clouds are air. And so that's how she's reflecting the air with
Yeah.
birds and those. But yeah. So yeah.
So a lot of, yeah.
So yeah, he might be, You know, when we are first in a relationship, it's like, you know, again, this is when maybe our emotions were not the most mature with our emotions. And we all can get that way. We can all get carried away with something.
Yeah.
Because it is about spirituality, emotions, our feelings, and things like that. And sometimes when these come up in a reading, one of my favorite things to say to people is have you ever had that moment where you said, what was I thinking? Well, this is a good example sometimes of, oh geez, what was I thinking? Why did I personally go in to buy a nice 4-door car one time and came out with a red Mustang?
Oh dear.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
The salesman totally painted that picture, didn't he? So, but then look at what we have here. We have the Queen of Cups, which is,
Water.
Water into water.
yeah. So, what kind of person is this? What's the personality?
Deeply
Lots
insightful, maybe
of emotion.
tweedy, yeah,
Lots of feeling, lots of spirituality.
yeah.
Maybe too watery that you're not using enough intellect so that everything can get blown out of proportion emotionally.
Yeah.
Absolutely could be. She's sitting here in the water, and the water's swirling a little bit here. And some people speculate what's in this closed cup. Some people say that this might be an emblem of her womb, the mother, because of all the deep emotions and feelings that go with this. So,
It would be really difficult to be her.
yeah? Tell me why.
And I just know people who, I can think of 2 people in my life who just always are like with every emotion. They can't, they're just up and down and can't use any practicality or logic.
Yeah. And does Pamela Coleman Smith, I don't know if you can see it, but does she have much of a smile here? Yeah, see? Not really. She's so focused on emotions
Well, that's because she has a really good martini in that
because she has a really good martini.
that she can't get at.
It's even the claw-like thing is ready to get you at the top.
Because I launched beforehand.
What's interesting to me is that her outfit almost looks like it's a continuation of the water.
Isn't that beautiful with the stones and all?
Because like even over here, it's like almost attached.
Yeah.
She literally is the water. The water of, she's water of water. So yeah, so this is one of those things where it's all about the emotions, it's all about the feelings. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in them that we are focusing on our feelings so much, it's hard to get out of it. So imagine the conversations if you're doing a tarot reading and you can see that there's some kind of a turmoil. Then it's one of those things where we need to help people focus on, what's outside. We're so wrapped up in the feelings that we can't see anything else sometimes. It's almost like that brick that's right here. And this is all I can see, and it's like I'm so focused on my feelings. And yet, if we just could stand back, all of a sudden we see it's a brick and not a wall. And now we can look around it.
The flip side is though, I could almost see her as being incredibly empathic.
Yeah.
Yes. So now let's talk about the positive side of this, though.
She's very good at evading obstacles. I think she is someone who
Oh yeah, go with the
She-
flow.
she doesn't necessarily take the most direct path to her goal, but
She'll take the
Yeah,
path
yeah,
of least
nothing-
resistance.
yeah, nothing will stop her. She'll just
No, that's
come
what
at it from a different
happens
angle.
with water.
Yeah,
Nothing
that's
stops
really-
water.
Yeah.
Sensitive
I mean, and that's good
and
and bad, that's good and bad.
wise,
Yeah.
where like you get overwhelmed by the emotions of others as well. Like it could go either way. It could be
Sure.
Like very
Yeah.
in tune, but then there's the capacity for the water to get like overflown.
Yeah.
But she's the one that you, like, yeah, when you are, like, when somebody just dumped you, and you want somebody's shoulder to cry on, and get drunk with, she's your lady.
There's that
Yeah.
martini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not the one that's gonna be
She's
giving
someone
you
who's like super
advice.
emotional.
Right.
Yeah.
She's listening.
She hears
Like
you.
very emotionally mature.
Very emotionally. Okay, so she is a queen. So now we need to remember she is a queen. Queen. So when we look at a king, that personality, okay? So what's his two elements?
Air over water.
Yeah. So when we see somebody like this, what does it evoke?
Controlling your emotions.
Okay.
Very analytical about his emotions,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Okay.
Could be suppressing them.
Maybe, because, yeah, look at the turmoil here. And when he was a page, he had a fish, and now see the little fish is now in the water behind him?
Lungs.
See that?
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah,
somebody
but there's
who,
all around. Like he's on this small little spot and he is surrounded by water.
Well, maybe he's feeling like if I don't do it, who will, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got empathy. He sees things with, you know, he has his feelings. So, what kind of a real life person might this be?
I would say someone who could compartmentalize, make
Maybe, yep, yep. Yep. A counselor, yep.
I was thinking like a spiritual leader.
Sure.
I would think he'd be an artist.
Ah,
Somebody who can take his emotional landscape and use it to create things. You know, or an actor,
sure.
you know, who taps the emotion inside himself to create what he wants.
Yeah.
But he is using the emotions are not using him.
So,
Someone who can cry on command.
yeah, and a friend of mine who created a tarot deck. It's out now. It's called the Alcento Tarot, and it's available for pre-order. But we did a series of videos, starting through. We went through the entire tarot, and it was determined that this was me. So I am in the Alcento Tarot. I am the King of Cups. Because I like to think that I like learning I also do want to express my feelings. I do want to give those feelings. But, so, yeah, it could be the artist. It could be, now, if this was if you needed advice for something, is this the type of person you want to go to? What kind of advice would he give?
Relationship advice. Spiritual advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a king. He's been there and done that.
He would be the one you would talk to after the Queen of Cups.
Ah.
You talk to her first to
Get the
get
emotion
your
out.
emotions recognized.
'Cause he's
And
gonna
then
be
you
the
talk to him, what
strategic
do I
one.
do with these emotions?
So first you talk to mom. And then maybe this is dad.
I also think that this would be somebody who's a really good boss. Like I had a boss that once kind of, you know, it's like I kind of went off. I didn't kind of go off half-cocked. I went off half-cocked on a group email, and he kind of pulled me in and he said, "Okay, so how might you have done that better?"
Yeah.
And I could see this person doing, like, okay, you know, he didn't chew me out or anything. It was like, I get where you're feeling, I get where you're coming from, but what would have been a more productive way to do that?
He accepts the
Yeah.
emotions of other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So emotionally mature.
Yeah.
So, and we have been at this for an hour. Before we go into the next one, would you all like to take a small break?
Yeah.
So we still have waters out there. I can see if there's more teas. Y'all like the teas?
Yeah.
And from there we can then move on to the wands, and then we will do a little bit of kind of almost role playing. So y'all ready to keep going? Okay. So, any questions so far now that your brains have had a chance to like coalesce? Any questions so far about any of the cards or personalities? Anything? Is it starting to make more sense though now that you're looking at these cards? And the whole thing is that bringing it down to a human level. So when I'm reading tarot for people, it's kind of like I have a software that I have to train people on. They don't know the names of the fields. They don't know what a Q cat and a smart code is. It's like, you guys have no clue what that is. I just said words out of magical air. But when we're reading for people, we want to explain things at a human level. A smart code is you. It's the ability to apply and take an action on something that can actually think. You know, so we don't want to confuse people with, this is Aries and it's moon in the 7th house and Jupiter is aligned with Mars, which means that you shouldn't dress like that. What? I know. I'm just not that deep. So here we are now. And look at this guy here. So what's his elements?
Earth over fire.
Earth over fire. So what do you think that means? Well, let me ask you this first. Fire. So what is that element? What does that element mean? Passion.
Creativity, sexuality.
Yeah.
Yep.
Action.
And all that. And so then we have this young man here of Earth. So if we saw somebody like this, what would we be thinking?
Well, you were talking about outfits before, but, no.
Yeah, and he's got salamanders, so that's fire right there. So maybe this is a person, so he is grounded, and he's looking at that staff, and that staff has got little things growing on it.
Yeah.
So maybe he is, excited about learning something. Maybe it's a new passion. Maybe it's something new that's going to grow. Maybe it deals with home or health or finances. And again, so wands are also about creativity. So maybe he's wondering what he can do with this staff. Do I want to carve the top and do I want to make it into a little Gandalf staff? And just to throw this out, because all the books traditionally throw this in there, they also say, if you see the Page of Wands, it means you're going to receive a message. I don't know what that means, but every dang book that I've read always says that. So that'll kind of stick in your head now. But it's about a new passion. It's about, what would a new passion be?
Learning a new hobby.
Learning a new hobby.
It does make sense actually, because I just took my first mirror class yesterday, and it was all just conditioning and the fundamentals, and it's the earthly elements of it, where it's you're just
the
hitting
basics.
you're just kind of oh my god, when am I going to be able to do all the fun stuff?
Yeah. Because he is grounded, so it's but this is, yes. So it's that developing a new passion, a new love for something. When I first got the tarot and it started clicking, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was darn excited by it. When I got, I go through so many different, I go through a lot of different passions in my life. I'm a collector of things. And so if I decide that I like something, I just go all out on it.
Yeah.
To me, all the wands look like the land part of it is a little bit more barren than any of the other cards.
Say that again?
The land part of
the land part, yep.
Look more barren than in any of the other cards.
Yep, and they're orange and they represent fire.
Yeah, it's almost like a desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's arid.
Then look at this guy here. What is his two elements?
Fire.
Oh yeah, so what does that mean?
He is dumb.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, he is out to do something. So now we're really excited. And I mean, his horse is charging, his plume looks like fire, he's got whatever remnants of a cape back here or something looks like fire. He's got the salamanders again, because it used to people believe that when you had a fire, you might see a salamander scurry by, that they thought salamanders actually were made from fire. So, what kind of person is this then? Who is this guy?
Very impulsive.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very impulsive. I also feel like he's somebody that would jump into and start things really quickly, and then it burns out.
Yeah.
oh, like an ADD kind of thing.
Very efficient.
Yep. I mean, I can kind of relate to this card because I do. I'm a passionate person. I love having fun. I can move from one thing to the next thing, and because I'm excited to learn new things. So, but that can also be impulsive. That can also be leaping without looking, just all about that fire and energy. Why did I buy that Mustang again?
But at the same time, like, if you need somebody to get something going,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's the person, like, if you want a good party or something like that, you need
Oh.
to find somebody who can get it going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you're in a situation where things are mired down, he will get them moving again. He will.
Yeah, he's gonna overcome.
If you are in a rut, this is the card to get you out of the rut.
Yeah.
Right.
This person will overcome that groove inertia.
Yeah.
It might even be saying to stop overthinking and just start going for it, and you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Learning by doing.
Yep. And burning your fingers, a few times to learn that lesson.
Hey, but you learned it.
Yep. So,
Reading a recipe book won't make you a great cook.
Yeah.
Step in the kitchen.
but I read a book on brain surgery.
Thanks, I'll look you up. I'd like a second opinion.
What's that?
I'd like a second opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So here we have the Queen of Wands, which is what?
Water.
Okay, so what do we think about this queen? What's her personality?
She might get too emotional, and then that will hold her back from pursuing her passions and just doing things, because the water can put out the fire.
Okay.
Or alternatively, her passions are linked to her emotions and she can use them productively. Because water over fire is also how you make soup. And soup is good.
So are you saying she's probably a passionate woman?
She's a passionate woman.
And she makes good
yeah.
soup.
And I think
Yes.
her emotions, like, yeah, she wears her emotions on the sleeve.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to guess as to what she's thinking. She's not the person who's going to say, like, are you mad at me? I'm like, I don't know, should I be? You're going to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask that question.
Yeah.
But she's also,
Okie dokie.
she's probably less dreamy than the Queen of Cups. She's more, the emotions are spurring action.
So, and
If you feel a way, you're gonna do something about it.
right. So what is the element of wands again?
Fire.
Fire.
Okay. And what does fire cover?
Passions.
Actions,
Creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is that, maybe this artist, maybe somebody who wants to be somebody who's passionate about something.
An activist.
An activist, because they feel that fire and they're emotional.
They pick something and they care about it really, really deeply.
Absolutely,
They make
yes.
things happen with it.
And
She's also a witch because she's got that black cat familiar.
she's got the mystery right here too. Pamela Coleman Smith stuck the little black cat down here. Show a little mystery right there.
What is witchcraft if not
Guys,
spirituality put to action?
Exactly, I was gonna
Yeah.
say, she knows how to take those emotions and the energy of that emotion and And she's got her nice wand to direct.
She's got her nice one. She's also holding, instead of a scepter, she's got a sunflower. So she is that bright energy. She is that fire. Yeah, you probably don't want to cross her, but she also probably is somebody who would be like a good leader.
She's a great person to have on your side.
You know? Then we have the King of Wands. So what is his elements? Air over water. So what kind of a personality is this?
Air over fire.
No.
Oh, air over fire. What did I say?
Air over water.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Like, wait,
And you passed the test. So we have air over fire. What do you think this guy is?
Not this. He knows how to put words and thoughts into action.
Oh, that's a good way to describe him, right?
Oh, he's in marketing.
Mmm.
And like air and fire feed each other, so it's like you can make big,
Yeah.
big creative passions.
Big bonfire.
Oh, yeah.
You can also overdo it, of course, too.
Yeah.
Blow it out, or but that air can also spread that fire. So that can be a good or a bad. So it can be something that whatever he puts out is very infectious.
Mm-hmm.
And, so his ideas catch on. Or his actions, people, he's definitely a leader that people are just going to follow and do what he does because of that.
So what kind of jobs would this be? You said marketing.
Yeah.
What other kind of jobs?
Social media, maybe.
Social media.
Like blowing up on social media.
Yeah.
Speech
Yep.
writing.
Yep. Maybe like a project manager, somebody you want to get things done.
A coach.
A coach, absolutely.
Performer.
What's that?
Performer, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Because again, the passion and the intellect that goes in there with it. So, that is our king. Now, so far, is there any questions about any of these that we covered? Any of these that are confusing to us? Anything we're not sure of? Okay, because now my question is that I see man, I see woman. Are these supposed to be male and female? It's masculine energy and feminine energy. So what is feminine energy?
Water, it's one yin.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So here we go, I'll ask again.
Money in the music.
There you go. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh,
So we were just talking about now, so we covered about our fire over fire project manager, and we covered our queen, which is water over fire. We covered all about the passion and things like that. And now I'm asking because, again, these cards are a man and a woman, but I was asking, are these cards about men and women? No, and we're talking about the masculine energy and the feminine energy. Feminine energy is that mother, that nurturing, that emotion, that caring. The masculine energy, and I know that, trying not to be stereotypical or anything, but it's about that, if we think of what that is like the drive. It's like we're not going to do our emotions. We're going to get something done. So when I read for people, and when you read for people, absolutely I could be the Queen of Cups in a situation because I am so wrapped up. Maybe I just can't stop crying. Maybe something has happened and it's like I'm just stuck and all I can focus on is the emotions and the feelings. Same thing with the Queen of Swords. So the Queen of Swords, which is if somebody is a teacher, that's not a masculine feminine thing at all. They're a teacher. They get to see things clearly. They've studied. They do everything, but they probably still have feeling or a therapist. So that's a big thing, is just keeping in mind that we are and we embody all of these cards. And it's interesting, so somebody mentioned they had the Thoth. In the Thoth deck, they called the page is the princess. So we have princess, then the knight, then the queen, then the king, so that we can have multiple ways of looking at it. But when expressing things and when we're doing readings, now I don't come out and, again, I always, as a matter of fact I do, I always say that the cards are not male or female. It's masculine energy, feminine energy. Now, if we do a reading and a card pops up, so let's say, for example, what's a real world, give me a real world problem, where somebody comes in for a reading. What's a real world problem?
I need to find a new job.
You need to find a new job. Okay, so let's say that this is the first card that pops up. What does that tell you?
Do it.
What are we waiting for? You know? What are you waiting for?
Why are we sitting here talking about it? Why aren't you out there applying?
How long have you been looking for this new job?
Yeah.
How many resumes did you send out this week?
Yeah?
Also like doing something that's more in alignment with your passions.
Yeah. And so you're looking for a new job. What about this card?
Art.
Yeah.
Maybe something
To me,
you're
that means stand steady right now and look and see.
So I also might, it's like, okay, so I need to find a new job. So are you overthinking your options as opposed to actually following through with something maybe?
Sure.
Did that make sense?
Sure. I would almost want to say, since he's fire over water, does he look like he's following his passion? You need a new job. If I see something like this,
Something
Yeah.
emotionally fulfilling.
yeah, it's about movement, following a passion. So when we're reading court cards then, court cards can be us. Okay, this could be you as you're looking for a job. Court cards can be another person whose personality fits it. So when we're doing a reading, sometimes I'll even ask, I'll describe the card. So this is a card of somebody with fire and energy and passion, and is there somebody in your life that kind of matches that? And somebody might say that my girlfriend is, she's just always, here, but I trust her, and she has my best interest at heart. Again, because these are just, nothing's a hard, fast rule. If somebody says this is their friend because they have their best interest and their emotions right there, we're not going to say no. The books say he's fire over water, so this is what it means. To be empathetic and to be an empath, we go with what this evokes in the person. So we've talked about what these all are, but then we need to throw it away. Because people are going to see these cards, and they're going to see these bright colored, the blues, they're going to see the oranges, they're going to see it. And when we're reading, we need to be quiet and just listen and say, what does this really mean? Jamie said this in a class, but that doesn't fit the situation, because we're telling a story, and intuition means I'm going to trust. So this card could be somebody else, or it could be ourselves, or it could just be part of the situation. And so about finding a new job, that's a situation that says, maybe I just need to follow my passion, follow my heart. And if I do that, maybe that's the job I don't want that I'm talking about. And what's funny is that we'll have that conversation about following the passion, following your heart. And when I read for somebody, I generally want them to tell me the answer, because it's like trying to tell a child the answer or telling another person. It's like, unless they sometimes tell you the answer, it's not going to seek it. You don't tell me anything, but we listen. Because a lot of times when I'm reading, I'll tell people that reading cards is not about giving answers all the time. Sometimes it's validating what you already know. This card is about following your heart and doing what feels. And then somebody will come back and say, and I say, but you already know that. And they're like, I know. You know, they'll say, I know. And now we've made this kind of breakthrough because they've said it out loud. So, now, here's the situation that pops up sometimes. You have multiple court cards. You have 4 cards spread. Da, 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 da. And then you have these multiple court cards come up. What the heck does that mean? So, does anybody have a thought on what that might mean if there's multiple court cards?
You feeling torn, maybe?
Or maybe multiple people are involved in the situation.
A lot of cooks.
Both of those, all of those.
You may need to lean into different parts of who you are.
Yeah, so a lot of times so I'll be reading and we'll sit there, and sometimes we'll establish a card might be somebody, or else we'll say, let's see what the rest of the cards are. And they can be different parts of our psyche. So this guy right here is probably going to not get along with this guy, is he? So when we see this, you know, and it's like we're talking about it, and so what's your passion, what is it? And then along comes here, and it's like we see this, it's like, well, maybe we need to just stop and actually just not deal with the emotion. We're making our decisions out of emotions. So now we're actually having an inner dialogue between these two, and let's let these 2 cards talk it out. Or this might be me, and it might be 2 people, because then this final card pops up, and I might ask somebody, you know, well, this card here is somebody who, and a king does want the right things to happen, but they're not going to let their emotions get in the way. So maybe, you know, do you know somebody that you might want to talk to about it first, who will give you give you their true opinion and not just tell you what you want to hear? And they might say, well, that might be my father, or that might be my best friend who is always such a jerk because they don't have a filter. You know what I mean? So when we're reading court cards and we get multiple cards, we analyze the cards around them and we make the decision, is this multiple people, or is this warring sides of myself? Let's see. Yep, and we talked about power struggles or harmony, conversations within. And it is like a conversation within. When we do a tarot meditation and cards come up like this, and I'm not going to ask anybody because it's about meditating, and it's going to be my heart over my mind, my passion over my intellect. And now, as I'm going through the day, I'm going to think about the cards, and I'm going to not just react. Maybe I'll remember. It's like this morning, it's like, because let's say the boss really just gets you, and you want to argue with the boss, you know, because, or the middle management that came in, you know, maybe that's what this knight would do, because again, it's about emotions. How would that knight react when somebody comes in and tries to tell him something and you think they're an idiot? He's fire and water. He's like, you know what? I'm right. You know, I'm going to be passionate. Or it's like, you know what? I'm going to handle this guy by not letting him get to me. This guy would definitely get to this guy, wouldn't it? Yeah. But is he going to get to this guy? No, not at all. And now we have the good advice from the morning meditation, don't we? I'm going to take a breath first, and then I'm going to cut your head off because I own a sword.
I'm gonna stick it behind my chair.
Just add it to my collection.
So, I figured that we might want to just at least play a little bit of a game. We started at, how's everybody doing on time? We officially started at 1:30, and so we've gone on now. But shall we take about a few minutes and just play a game?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So what I want is that, let me see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Do we want to do like 3 teams or 2 teams? Can we break this up into 3 teams?
Sure.
Let's do 3 teams, preferably somebody you don't even know.
That's a lot.
I know. And I've got some extra paper here if anybody needs it, because we're going to be using, so we're going to have 3 teams, and so I'm going to do this. Yep, you find a team. Whose team are you going to be on? We can move your chair to whatever team you need. So.
Does each team needs one piece of paper?
One piece of paper, because you guys are going to discuss it. This is about group discussions.
So are we a team? Who needs a piece of paper?
We've got a piece of paper.
Anybody else need a piece of paper? We have paper right here. And I got pens. Look at me. I have a million. If you want to use 3 pens, you can. I have them. They're spare. So. And I just kind of came up with this a couple days ago because I wanted to do something where we would actually discuss what we're doing here. So, we got that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a question, like a real world situation. Okay? And then I'm going to pull these down, and we are going to let each one of these have a discussion. I'm going to pull out 3 cards. We'll do a 3 and 1. And we're going to tell a story. I feel like they're x-rays, you know? It's like you see them on the doctor shows. You have a hematoma, figulated, resonated tibia.
That doesn't sound good.
So, let's see, shuffle my deck a little bit here. Okay. Good, you can't see that. Good. Okay. Then let's grab another one. Singing in the rain. Okay, and then now. You'll see every morning I do a 3 and 1. So, now, we need a real world situation. So we talked about a new job. Is there something else particular? Throw out some ideas real quick. You're thinking too hard.
Elderly sick parents.
Oh, let's not go so depressing. I will give you that reading in private. What else?
Thinking about getting a pet.
Getting a pet. Okay, that has its own conflict. We have getting a pet. Somebody else throw out just some other ideas so far.
Finances.
What's that?
Finances, poor finances.
Poor finances. You people are depressing. Let's get a new pet. Okay, so for this, This card here is the main character. Now, everybody here, it's like, how do you all feel about a main character? Because that might be a very one-sided person. Are we good with that? Or shall we say something, should I buy a new car?
Sure.
Sure.
You want to go with, should I buy a new car? Because you might be reading for somebody else and they have come unto you and said, I shall May 4th possibly buy a new car. What dost thou think? So shall I buy a new car? So this is our main character. This is our supporting or influence or activist who or what is influencing the situation. The card could depict another person, a hidden aspect of the character, or an external influence adding complexity to the story. So the third card is our outcome or resolution, what is likely to result or the key lesson. And the card shows the direction the story is going, and the advice card. After the 3 cards are pulled, the final card is the advice card. That's going to help make the decision. So the first card here is going to be our main character, who is the central figure in this. And again, somebody has come to you and said, I think I want to buy a new car. So, now what I want you guys to do is you're going to use your creative minds and you're going to start the story. So we have, here's the main person. I'm thinking of buying a new car. And then here we have the antagonist, the person who they're talking to. And then the resolution here, the outcome or resolution, and then the advice card. So work amongst yourself for a second and start developing the story. Somebody has come to you about buying a new car. And here we have the Queen of Swords. What does that even mean? Go.
So it's
The-
the
here.
emotion.
So I wrote, this is the main character.
So
The second will be the influencer, so like the dealer.
Oh, and you have 1 minute, by the way.
it's
The
not
outcome will be
necessarily-
here, but this will be the person that advises.
The advisor.
Yes.
So that's what's all the King of Swords is the
Yes.
character.
So she really just wants somebody to give her.
Or they
Or-
could
or-
share, or they're representing.
Yeah.
somebody.
I think she's got the emotion.
Yeah.
She
Or
wants
it's
to
a
be,
car,
she wants
but
to
I
cut
think
through the
somebody
illusion,
wants
just
to
give me
think
the
about
And then
facts.
there's also
And
the
all the facts.
emotions.
wants to make a lot.
Yeah, there's also that element of like emotion, she's a water, air.
What I really want
It's like
is
cheat
like a
sheet.
spiffy, whatever.
So that
That sound good?
Yeah, that would.
Okay, you got 10 seconds to write to write it down on your piece of paper. So write it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Do we have it on the paper? Do we have it written on our paper? Huh?
Oh, that would be.
Okay, well, I'm going to be asking you to relate your stories because it's a full story, beginning, middle, end. So, you guys ready? That's what I was suggesting. Write it down. Okay. So, this is the antagonist. Ooh. Look at this. So, we have the Knight of Coins. Okay. And again, it's the supporting influence. Who or what is influencing the situation? This card can depict another person, a hidden aspect of the character, or even an external influence, adding complexity to the story.
So it
Go.
may not be personal.
Right, exactly. Remember, it could be you, it could be somebody else, or part of the situation. But somebody's come to you about buying a new car.
Don't be so impulsive, because the knight was so on fire, the pentacles, he's like, wait, take your time, don't let the dealers kind of try to rush you with that knight energy, but then
Emotion of what she wants.
it's like, the advice from the parent, whoever it is that, don't let that energy
That she
influence.
wants.
Yeah, a concern.
And tell her, like,
Because what if we're
you know,
planning
and
for
tell her
it's
why
money,
this
you know,
makes
what is
sense.
your plan?
Like, why does that
Yeah.
make sense in her world?
It's fire and money.
Yeah.
I mean, fire and earth.
So,
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just see it
Or
as
to-
when you go to the dealership and they
When
have
you
impulsive
do have the money.
Yeah.
with your money, or like,
That's
Or
this is not, what if
You
you
can make it
you're
work this
waiting
way.
and
Yeah.
spend it
I
on
would say
something.
read the whole contract.
It's
sporty one.
Check those interests.
Check your interest rate.
Check your interest and
Gas
check
mileage,
against
whatever.
Actually, check
whoever
how it feels.
the dealer in front.
5 more seconds.
Afraid of getting on itself.
5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Great. Okay, so here we have the outcome or resolution, what's likely to result, or the key lesson. This card shows the direction the story is taken or the lesson the querent can apply. Oh.
Yes, this is the outcome.
So, and you have 1 minute.
Water, intelligence, balancing ambition, and inner wisdom.
So water is
like fire.
So this has the outcome of being,
It's constantly like I'm taking control.
but almost like if
Yeah.
you can
Weighed it out, maybe it's just the financial.
That's right.
Yeah. It's gotta
It's
balance
difficult.
like what I,
The
my
wires, I've gotta see
dream
that.
car and my practical car. Yeah.
Companies, you are under
I think
or
she
advice is
does.
just gonna be about
Has the
what
clear
your power you can have.
I
She knows she
think
wanted the car. And she's gonna, yeah.
I feel like
You're gonna get the car.
Yeah, she knows the color.
Yeah, you know
The
what I
brand,
would be,
everything.
you have the financial
She's gonna get the one that
decide.
She really needs to
what
practical,
it is,
so
so
that
that
she
you
wants
can
to
afford
see
to
a
pay for it.
crossover.
Right. So maybe a break.
yeah.
To pay for your.
5 more seconds.
She's getting something she wants up with a little flare.
And there's the practical, you gotta go to the bank, you gotta get the loan.
Yeah.
Something that makes us think.
yeah.
Okay.
And then she's gonna get.
So, have we got our stories so far? We ready for the next one?
advice, yes.
Oh, oh, oh.
He snuck the dial out there. The tower or something like that.
The king of cups.
And this is the advice. Oh, man.
That's the finance manager.
This is your advice card. So somebody's come to you about buying a new car. We did our 3 up here for the discussion, but this is the ultimate advice we want to give the person.
Make sure.
Yeah.
Those with understanding.
Like follow what you're
And again,
like make sure you feel like you want.
Yeah,
Make sure that
sure,
you
yeah.
Your thoughts.
I like that.
have really focused what we're like. Yeah.
Follow the facts.
Yeah, follow the facts and
Need and not.
make sure you ruminate over it as, you know,
Yeah.
as needed to make sure that you get all the facts
Yeah.
correct. So you don't fall off that log or It's very small
There's
space.
so much water in this, look at
So I wonder,
Oh,
so Queen of Swords
you're
it.
right.
Except for
Needs
the
water,
antagonism, yeah.
You're right.
and air.
A lot of emotion invested.
And the advice for it is the exact, it's the same.
Like don't let
Funny,
your
we have
emotions.
swords,
You've got the same elements.
cups,
So I think
wands,
this is
and
really
everybody's
interesting
there.
that-
Yeah. It's also saying like don't let your emotions get the best of you. Make sure that you're
Yeah,
using your
and
head.
it's
Got 2 queens.
the flip.
10 more seconds.
Yeah.
It's a mirror. All of
Yeah.
that.
It is, it is
Kind of a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. The facts here.
Yeah, so yeah, it's almost like they're holding a mirror up to her
My
and saying
takeaway
like.
with the King of Cups.
4,
you know, I just-
3,
I know what
2, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So isn't this interesting?
Yes.
So, if we look at the group now, what's one big thing you notice about this group?
Lots
So
of
much
water.
water. And it's a very symmetrical.
Really flared.
Yeah?
That could be potentially.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see a lot of symmetry there.
So what else do you see? I'm seeing something.
I see every single element.
That's the thing that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have the swords, we have the pentacles, we have the wands, and we have the cups. If I'm talking to somebody, it's like this is affecting their entire being.
Oh my
Yeah, a lot of times you'll have at least 2 wands or 2 cups or something like that. You know, it's all about the emotions. But instead, this is affecting all elements of this being, this person, in this discussion. It's not just, I'm passionate about this. No. It's not that I'm just excited, intellect about this. It's like everything.
But she really wants that car,
Yeah.
he or she.
So, I'm just going to randomly pick you guys. What story did you come up with?
Alright, so the main character is most likely a woman, and what she wants is, or somebody with a lot of feminine energy, and she's trying to, she knows she needs a new car. There's a car of her dreams kind of thing, versus what makes practical sense for her.
Yep.
So now she is heading into the dealership, and she has met the Knight of Pentacles, who is the salesperson. Clearly we can see that he does not have her interests in mind because he's got his back to her.
Yeah, bravo.
And he is trying to talk her into the car of quote, her dreams, because that's going to help his bank account. And he's going to try and talk her into how she can actually afford it, whether or not she actually can afford it. Then she comes down to the Queen of Rods, and the Queen of Rods, we kind of thought was, it's like you actually get in front of the finance guy. And basically she's got to come to a decision on how to balance these two things that are pulling at her. So, maybe instead of getting the sports car, she gets herself like a used, like something that'll accommodate her kids, like a nice used Honda Pilot or something like that. The advice card, basically, so what we kind of saw was the main character's identity is water and air. And then we come down to the King of Cups, who's giving her advice, and his signs are air and water. So again, you're balancing your wants and what makes intellectual sense. And it's almost as if he's holding a mirror up to her and reinforcing that she already knows, like, what you need to do. And he's reinforcing that.
That's really good.
That's gorgeous.
Yay.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And again, yep.
Team effort.
And there are no wrong answers, but you pointed out a few good things in there. So, how about this team?
Yeah, very similar thing. Yeah, I mean, we had this, happened to be a woman who really just wants to go into the showroom and just give me the facts. I just want the facts. I don't want to really be thinking of anything more than the facts. But she has like a brother or husband, whatever, with her, who's the influencer, not the dealership. And just kept, keeping her grounded when the dealership would come over, but grounded with, make sure you're reading your contract, make sure you know your finances, make sure you know this, that, and the other thing. And then with the outcome, it was a matter of, them going, well, you know what you want. Like, okay, so this is the car that you want. But you keep kind of going over there because the color of that car is like this bold statement that you want. So we'll just make this car in that color for you. And so she gets what she wants that way. And then the advice person was, somebody, or, another person turning around and being like, use your head, just use your head. Forget the color, just use your head. And
Financially.
so, yeah, financially.
Awesome. Totally makes sense. And then we have,
Elijah's gonna do it, but I just want to say it's interesting that everybody assigns it to different people, and to me, it was all assigned to her.
Yeah.
She felt what she did, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
ours-
Everything
That's
was
interesting.
within
One for
Yeah.
Was herself, yeah. Ours was a
Yeah.
little different because, like she said, we didn't have multiple actors. They were much more multiple voices within the person.
mm-hmm.
So we said it a little earlier. She has been wishing for a new car, she's been dreaming of a new car, but she hasn't actually decided yet. She's wants to think about it, she wants to get into the practicalities of it, and think, not wish.
And want versus need.
And looking at want versus need, I love the idea of a new car. Kind of fantasizing about a new car, but what do I have to think about?
Right.
So the obstacles there are both the financial and the practical, but the night, the fire, the action of buying a car is also in the obstacle position.
Right.
So she hasn't actually decided to do it yet. She's in the pie in the sky stage. So our outcome is action. Our outcome, the car is going to be bought. How are we going to get there? What actions are we going to take to get there? And that brings us to the advice, which is the King of Cups, which is the mind over the heart. Don't resist your desires, but rule them. Follow your heart. You want a new car, there's reasons you want a new car. But keep your head in charge of your heart. Let your rationality direct your desire.
Right. Wow. So a lot of good stuff came out of that in 3 different directions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, what else can be said? I mean, none of these were wrong. And when you were doing this, did you remember that this is supposed to be hard? And did you remember that this was supposed to be something confusing? Or did it just seem to kind of make sense as you started telling a story?
No, we kind of had to be the Knight of Wands because you gave us a deadline.
Yes. Well, the other thing about that is being intuitive. Sometimes if we think too much, then we will start, it's breaking that eraser off our pencil. Trusting. Because I think something you had said did not exactly fit. When you were talking about this back to it and something else, it's like it actually expanded on the card itself that wasn't completely into the same definition that you would normally give it, but it made sense because it was telling the story.
Yeah. It got into the relationship of the cards to each other
Yeah.
instead of reading each card in isolation.
So, with that, is there any other questions? Did you all enjoy this?
Yes.
Yay! Give yourselves a... So, with that, our next event is probably going to be a tea and tarot, where we will actually literally, and it'll be a social event, where literally we are going to just set up tables, drinks, stuff like that. I'm going to have my tarot cards. I'm going to invite people to bring their tarot cards and start reading for other people. You'll have different, all the different levels and things like that. And feel free to, because if questions come up, I'll be right there. I'd love to answer any questions for any spreads that you're doing. Maybe even giving a suggestion for a spread, just saying, okay, everybody, let's read for somebody and here's a spread. So that's probably going to be the next one. So if you all enjoyed it, I hope you grab one of my cards. Feel free to go to Yelp and you can look up MyTarot.org. I always forget to do that, but it's like, all right, I need to get more things on there. I know. But with that, a big hug to everybody because you all were amazing, and I'm a huggy kind of guy, so if you ever feel like you need a hug, I am absolutely here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Awesome. So hang around if you want. We can actually have, Ginger can make more tea. We have more snacks out there. I'm going to be here for a while because I just like hanging out in the store. And don't forget